So with that said, I'm happy to announce that the system is going to go live on Thursday, the 11th of July at 8 a.m. and it's going to close on the 12th of August at midnight.
Hi guys, the application sits at GDE for admission here next year for grade 1 le grade 8. So parents are applying bana ba rena hore ka next year ka 2025 re ska ba mo mathateng re ska sokola. I can like to ho sokodisa bang.
I need one of those doctors. They call them chiropractors. Yeah. The GDE Admissions Portal. Okay, GDE Admissions Portal, designed to make the life of parents easier. But somehow every year it's trending, and for all the wrong reasons. If you've ever tried to get your child placement in Gauteng, you know that this system throws hands. And by hands, I mean trying to get somebody to help you with your tax returns on the phone. That's a topic for another day. So why is it like this? How did we even get here? Let's break it down. Hi, this is Sego, and this is Sego Breaks It Down, where we break down our world one crazy thing at a time. If deep dives are something that you're into and you like knowing about the world around you, then please consider subscribing. Today we are talking about the GDE Admissions Portal. We know you live in Gauteng. We know come January, come school time, there is always a huff and a puff and a fuss regarding the GDE admissions profile. So where did this all start? So the GDE admissions profile was there. The GDE admissions portal was introduced in the year 2015 by the Gauteng Department of Education. So it was an effort to modernize, getting admissions for your child. So when did it all start? So the GDE admissions profile. Can I say this because it's one of them? Maybe I'll do better. Sure. Okay. So the GDE Admissions Portal was launched in the year 2015 by the Gauteng Department of Education. The aim of introducing it was to modernize admissions, to curb corruption and bribery that was happening in terms of admitting children to schools. So before, placements were handled manually, so you'd have to go to the school, stand in line with all the other parents, put your documents, taking the day off, stand in line, and then you get to a school and they would say, okay, here are your documents, here's your children's documents, and where do you live? And they would decide based on that whether you go on to waiting list A or B. And waiting list A then takes priority over waiting list B. As soon as all the kids on waiting list A are placed, then they'll go to waiting list B and place the kids according to that. So it was launched, but the execution has been less than ideal and has left a bitter taste in a lot of parents' mouths. What the portal is supposed to do is it's supposed to be a one-stop shop for parents. So as a parent, you would apply for placement of your child for grade 1 or grade 8. So in terms of the middle grades, the school is still in charge of that. They still do the manual selection when it comes to children in that sense. So you would log in and you'd upload your documents, and as soon as you upload your documents, you would then choose 5 schools. of your choice, and obviously based on how you'd choose the schools, that's how they would rank them. And then you would then wait for the department to place your child. So placement criteria was based on a sibling preference. So if big sister or big brother was already in the school, then they would your child would be preferably placed in that school. Home proximity, which is a big issue, we'll come back to that. So home proximity, so the closest school to your house would be selected, right? So even if I would like a school maybe a bit further down because of their reputation, the system would then choose a school that is closer to my home. Work proximity, which is the same thing, it's just a school closer to your place of work. And then previous school. So the school system in South Africa is this way where you have a group of primary schools, and then in terms of that, the high schools, they would have what we call feeder schools, so schools that feed them students, right? Usually those are based on proximity, values, all of that. So there are primary schools that feed into high schools, right? And that's another thing that I want to get into. The sizes of the high schools based on the amount of primary schools that feed that school. So that's also another issue that we'll get into. And then once placements are assigned, you would get an offer. Say in the example that I gave, I wanted my child to go to a school that's a little bit further because of their reputation instead of the one that's closer. If they give me the school that's closer, I have the option to reject and wait for a response for the next school to say, okay, I don't want this school, I want that school. And that is also another problem. We'll get into that. So, sounds simple, right? I mean, Mara, the math is not mathing. And we'll get into that also. So every year, without fail, every year, parents will hop onto a portal and they would find what? Error 404. Yeah, not found. So the system would be down. It would continually crash if you don't get in early enough. I remember even with my sister, she and her husband were up until the AMs just so that they can get into the portal before it crashes, before anything goes wrong. And sometimes there are parents who have complained that they would apply and their applications would go missing on the system. South Africa. This isn't just a major inconvenience because at the end of the day, hundreds and thousands of learners end up being unplaced. Turns out things don't always work as advertised. Now, to be fair, the GDE has addressed the issues publicly. They've blamed high traffic volumes, and then the high traffic of data being pumped into the system as challenges. And also they have even blamed the parents to say that y'all ain't uploading the correct documents. Y'all don't read. Just joking. In one statement, the department did say that we acknowledge technical difficulties but are continuously improving the system to ensure every learner gets placed. So they've introduced measures like extending the number of days that the application portal is open. Remember, the portal is only open for I think 30 days, if not 60. I'll just verify that for you. And then they've also started sending out SMS confirmations so that parents have that confirmation and they can refer back to that. But parents are still struggling even with those things there because they are not fixing the problem.
We are aware that on the 9th and early hours of the 10th of August, the system went down. We were alerted by a number of parents that they were struggling to upload and complete the applications. So it was an issue with CETA. So they were able to resolve it by the 10th later on in the day. But then what that meant is that parents had lost 2 days, crucial 2 days. We then therefore took a decision to extend the closing date from the 12th, which should have been tomorrow, midnight, to the 14th, midnight. So the closing date is moved from the 12th tomorrow to the 14th, which is Wednesday midnight, for parents to apply and complete the application.
So is this a case of good intentions with bad execution, or is the system fundamentally flawed? To that. So now let's zoom out for a second, right? Like I've said, we'll come back to all of those things that so like I've said, let's zoom out a little bit, right? There's an underlying issue, in my opinion, regarding what is happening with the system and the system, the schooling, the Gauteng schooling system as a whole. But I'll share that. So why is there a scramble, right? So what I wanna discuss and wanna say, why is there a scramble to place children in certain schools? So you will notice something, that in terms of school placements, it is the suburban schools that are having an issue with the placements, right? And the system. So I feel that the system is not the issue. The fundamental issue is, or the root problem, I think, in my opinion, is the decline of township schools. Many township schools have been shut down due to low enrollment. Kids who live in the townships are not enrolling in township schools. Remember, one of the things that the system uses to place children is proximity to home. And so township schools have been closed due to low enrollment, teacher redeployment, lack of funding, right? The result is that township schools township parents, I don't want to call them township parents, but parents who live in the township do not consider township schools when choosing schools for their children. So what happens is they then take their children, take them to these formerly Model C schools, and they flood those Model C schools. And those Model C schools do not have the capacity to carry kids who live in the area, who come from surrounding primary schools, who are being fed into that school, plus kids coming from townships coming into those Model C schools. And this has caused a crisis in suburban schools, because you find that a teacher has as many as...
So today I welcomed quite a few new kids in my class, and I am sitting on 53 grade 1 learners in the class. I have had to resort to using some grade R tables because I don't have enough chairs and tables of my own. And the sad part is that I know that there are teachers that have even more, that have in the 70 kids in their class. I just want to know, what's up with the education system? Why does our government not take education seriously, honestly? Anybody got a really good paying job for me?
Sorry, my battery died. So I was like, so teachers having 94 students, like 94 grade ones, how are those children supposed to get a quality education? How are they supposed to get the necessary attention from the teacher? How's the teacher supposed to see the children that may have learning difficulties, that may need that extra attention? And even if she sees that certain children need excuse me, like a lot of attention, she cannot give that to, because there are 93 other grade ones who are waiting for that teacher's attention. So I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and I, as a teacher, I don't think that it would be fair, and you find that is why a lot of teachers are leaving the profession. Not only are they not paid properly, they are overloaded, they have a ton of paperwork to do, they have no time to rest, their classes are overly full, there are not enough teachers, and I just don't get why we have a ton of student teachers or teachers who've just qualified, who are sitting at home when we have teachers who are overloaded. So there's just this thing that's going on that I'm not getting with the education system.
Those paragraphs, they are not occupied as Kangani.
And I would like to at some point deep dive on the decline of the South African education system, because something is wrong and something has to give, right? And I don't think that the Department of Education does not see these problems if they are so visible to the rest of us. With the close of township schools, it means that children from disadvantaged backgrounds have to now travel long distances. So you find that from a township school to those former Model C schools or suburban schools, a child has to wake up at 4 and leave the house at 5 so that they make it on time to school at 7, 7:30, whenever school goes in. I mean, waking up is tough as an adult. Imagine as a small child, and that same child then comes home after 4 and they have to do a ton of homework, and we'll talk about the amount of homework that kids receive. But that's also something that I feel is inherent in the amount of time that teachers have with them. They end up having to send their children home with a lot of work, a lot of work that they could have done together. It also means that the parents of those children have to pay a whole lot of money for transport, and I mean, in some cases you find that a parent has to pay transport for a transport that that is less than ideal. Children are overloaded in cars because these drivers have to drive a long distance, and the more kids they make, the more money they can take home. That's also another topic for another day. So and also we find that their children in township schools don't have access to grade R. So if you don't know, grade R is now compulsory. So your child will not get into grade 1 without going to grade R. So grade R is now compulsory, but township schools, most of them, right? Most township schools do not have grade R because they don't have the teachers, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the infrastructure there to house grade 1 classes, right? And so the GDE, not only the GDE, but the education system as a whole has deeper issues. There are deeper inherent issues, and those issues also stem from the past that we have as a country. isn't. So what is happening with our government currently, and the way education is just something that is placed on the back burner. I'm of the opinion, it is my opinion by the way, that appointments of ministers of education, I don't know how they're done, but woo. I've got absolutely nothing to say about that. Both basic and higher education, someone needs to care enough about the education system, not about their job, not about keeping their job, not about keeping their position in their political parties. Somebody has to care enough about education to get the Department of Education and also the Gauteng Department of Education out of the mess that it's in. There are people who let me not go there.
2025 grade 1
this
and a GDE application.
I think it's just a topic that is not being talked about. We are struggling. Today we received SMSs that we must wait until the 30th of the month, the 30th of November, to get placement. And they said, the previous SMS said we need to wait until the 21st of October 2024, and nothing has happened, and we still don't have spaces for our kids for next year. Guys, can somebody please out there explain this thing to us? Could not even explain, just place us already, because some of us, we've applied on the very first day, like me, Nanji, for an example. By 9 o'clock on the very first day they opened the application, I was done with my application, submitted all the documents, everything, even my address is within the radius of the school that I applied to, but still I don't have space. Now they're telling me to wait until November. How am I going to start preparing for my kid for school uniform, the registrations and all of those things? When am I going to start doing that? Already those things are expensive. I need to budget. I need a way forward. Please somebody please say something, or maybe tell me what to do. Something. I can't be waiting until the last day of November. It's impossible, because by then they're going to tell us that they are going on holidays. Now we have to go in January now and go queue there by the department. No, guys. Can somebody just explain this thing nicely and place us already?
So there's also another part that I want to discuss, which also stems the issue. So like I've said, you find that a high school in a particular area will have about 3 to 4, sometimes 5 feeder primary schools. So meaning, say let's take the lesson. Primary school has 43 learners in a class, and it has 3 or 4 of those classes, and those learners are going from grade 7 into grade 8, meaning they have to go to that high school. So then there's 5 schools with 4 classes each of 40 to 50 learners, and they have to all get housed in one high school. So there is a definite shortage in terms of high schools. That is very visible, and is always visible during the times where transitional from primary into high school. You see that there are not enough high schools in certain areas, right? And the solution from the Department of Education is to take a piece of land, bathome di container, di kaftin, guys, le tsenya bana ka mogare ha di Tupperware. That's a story for another day. You know you have a shortage of high schools. You are trying to mitigate that by getting containers on land and starting schools that way. I know most schools start that way. But for then a high school to go into year 3, year 4, year 5, and there is no visible, we are going to build a proper school. But there is infrastructure in townships, schools that have been built, maybe a bit dilapidated, may not have all the facilities, but there are schools that are erected in township schools that are being closed down. Let's talk about that. We have the infrastructure on one place, no learners, no teachers, no infrastructure on the other side, with overloaded teachers and just too many learners. Make it make sense. Also, there are a lot of parents who want their kids to go to a school that has the facilities. You find that your child was active, your child played sports. When you take your child out from that environment and that school and you take them to a school that is not built yet, so they could not have the facilities that your child has. And then we want to complain, oh, South Africa doesn't have a sports team or a good sports team, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, there are not enough people of certain ethnicities going into sports. And we wonder why, and we want to, that's where it starts at grassroots level.
And the importance about this aspect of schools that you choose. For us, parents, when you choose the schools that you put there, don't say to us, I chose this one first because that's what I want. These other ones, I was just filling the names of the schools nearby. We move from an assumption that any one of the 5 schools is your preferred school. So the 5 schools that you put are schools that we assume that these are the schools that you are comfortable with as a parent, and your child can go to any of these 5 schools and you'll still be happy. That's what you understand. That's how we assume the system. But don't put one school. Because when you put one school, you're putting us at a difficult position that if your child does not get placed in that school, then we have a problem. So meaning that you're putting your child at a disadvantage and yourself at a disadvantage. So we are urging parents, choose 5 schools, at least minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5. So keep within that bracket all the time.
So I don't want to dwell too much into that, but that is something that needs to be discussed. To say these makeshift schools, yes, all schools, most schools, I don't know, in the past a school would get built and finished. I know in some schools when they want to extend, they'll put a container there until they're ready to build. But it seems like it needs to be the school's initiative to say, oh, let's build, let's grow the schools. We don't have enough grade R classes. We don't have a school at all. But we have learners, and where are those learners supposed to learn? And I don't know where the thinking is, and it's really frustrating for me. And I feel like there is a lack of care. I don't know. I've said this a lot. You need to care. There are certain things that you need to care about. Like as a teacher, you need to care about kids learning. You need to care about education. The same way a nurse needs to care about giving health to. So there are certain professions that you don't go into just to say, I want to make money, or I want to. You need to care. And those are professions that need somebody to care and be passionate about what they're doing. I mean, guys, teaching is the mother of all professions. Whether you're an accountant or a businessman or a cleaner, whether you are a builder, construction manager, a driver. At some point you needed to read something in order to get into that profession, and the person who taught you to read that is a teacher, and a teacher who cared enough to make sure that you are able to read, that you are able to write, that you are able to function as a normal person, or as a person in society, as an active member of society. But yet we take our teachers for granted. We really do. And that's why people don't want to be teachers, and those who are teachers want to leave, and those who have finished teaching cannot teach because they cannot find work. So where does that leave us? So let's not end it on a downer. Let's try to be positive. So what is the solution? In my opinion, by the way, I think the Department of Education, the Gauteng Department of Education, and I think it's a countrywide issue, they need to invest more in township schools. The infrastructure is there, the schools are there, they just need to be fixed. We need to invest in sports and recreational activities in township schools. I think the issue of township schools, I may do a deep dive on just the state of township schools and why all these parents are running. I mean, the parents in suburban areas are frustrated because their children cannot be placed, and their children live closer to those schools because of parents who come from the township and they go there. And it's not bad that they do that. They're looking for a better education for their kids, but at the same time they are compromising also the education of their kids. And do you not think that if we had a better system, a better schooling system in the township, then a parent would not see the need to move their child to a suburban school? If a township school had sports, what would be the reason for the parent to take the child to a suburban school? If the township schools had good facilities, good infrastructure, what would the reason be to take a child to a township school? I mean, most of schools in townships are fee-free schools, so you can take your child to school if you can't afford it, and there's no one who's going to demand fees from you. But if you go to a suburban school, they are in another class. They need to fund themselves most of the time with most things, so they will ask for fees. So it's stuff like that, right? Let's think about that. I think there needs to be some effort between the Department of Education and also principals of the school. I mean, I think that's something I need to deep dive into. What is the power of the principal, and what can the principal do? Is there something that the principals are doing? Are they being stopped from participating? Are they?
As a good leader, it functions, irrespective of where it is. So there's no excuses that the school is here, it's an informal settlement. There's no such. Because some of our top performing schools, schools that have taken us to 88.4, are township schools in difficult conditions in those communities. But they managed to pull the result. They manage to create stability, and they manage to produce very disciplined learners. But if the principal is a mess, the school will be a mess. And worse, obviously, if you have an IGSO who just comes in to drink tea and biscuits instead of doing their work, obviously it will be a problem. And then it goes like that, second village as well as to the district directors. But my district directors are very committed, irrespective of the challenges they've experienced. Sometimes I do feel that I'm underpaying them in terms of the work and challenges that they really go through in really getting our schools right in this province. Gauteng is a difficult province, but it is a workable. So I thought I should just open in those few words. I don't know if I will give to the HOD.
Also, the admissions portal. Hey, can we get some nyana software nyana? Like, can we hire people who can help, right? don't know what the issue is, but I know that systems can be fragile, especially with the large data. But if you know historically, I mean, 2015 is 10 years. 10 years, right? So if it was implemented in 2015, it's been 10 years since the system has been active. It is still behaving the same way it did in year one. So personally, as a matter of opinion, I don't think anything has been done. I think once everybody is placed, and mostly manually, they just relax and wait until it opens again. I don't know. I just wish I had access to somebody who can just explain from a technological standpoint, what could they do? What can they do? For companies that have websites that have high traffic, in those cases, like what do you do? How do you stabilize a system that has to deal with so much data and so much traffic at a point in time? Do they open the portal for 100 folk today, 100 folk tomorrow? What would the solution be? And somebody needs to find that solution, because it cannot be 10 years and no improvement. That doesn't make sense. I think also the Department of Education needs to improve on its communication with parents. Most parents would be more understanding if the department would, or the people who work in the department would be more open to sharing information and letting them know this is where we are, this is where we are not, this is how we can help. But most parents start getting angry, very teed off, pissed off, because they feel that the Department of Education could not care less and the employees could not care less. They're being stonewalled, no one is listening to them, no one cares. The department will, some people have said that the department will tell them they just don't. What are they supposed to do? They're not the only parent. So come on. Sometimes you need to at some point and know this is our fuck up. Let us try and fix it. So for the employees to be stonewalling parents, as much as they're frustrated because it's 100,000 parents, imagine if it was you. If it was your child in February, still not placed. The government needs to seriously address the overcrowding in suburban schools and teacher burnout. It goes back to really going back to the township schools and sorting them out and fixing them and caring about the infrastructure. Also, school construction projects need to be prioritized. They need to have proper oversight. They need to be prioritized. Don't wait until January to say, no, this is the solution now, and then we will do this. You know the situation that you're in. You don't need to wait until the last minute to do the right thing. Place the children where they need to be, in a proper school. Don't think about construction in December because it's too late. School is in a month. So I think proper planning also needs to happen in that case. So until things change, this annual placement drama will come back every now and then, like load shedding. And I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair to the parents. I think it's unfair. I'm a parent, and I think it's unfair to our kids. I think it's unfair to the parents. I think it's unfair that we are now as parents fighting amongst each other, saying no, but you don't live around and therefore your child shouldn't even be in the school, and parents fighting against other parents so that those children are removed so that their children are placed. I feel like we are fighting the wrong battles. The department needs to fix this ASAP. On that note, what has your experience been with the GDE portal? If you've never had issues, if you had your child placed in February and March of the school year, please drop a comment down, like, subscribe, and join us next time when we break it down one crazy thing at a time. Bye guys.